Thank you for tuning in to All About the Girls, the podcast, where your host, me, Jenny Craig Brown, interviews incredible women to learn what powers them, what inspires them, and how they make our world a better place. Let's get to it. Well, welcome everybody to an awesome episode of All About the Girls. Thank you for joining us today. We've got Dr. Amy McCormack, president of Calumet College of St. Joseph. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
All about the girls, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
So by the time this publishes, we'll be just out of the annual event. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll put it into the air. We sold out at 500 people, but we'll see.
Nice.
I'm expecting
Very
for
exciting.
sure 400, so we'll see how that goes. I'll just dive right in, as I think we do here at this podcast. So for folks that don't know you, obviously president of CCSJ, that's how we all know Calumet College of St. Joe. Tell us a little bit about you as a person, a bit about you, your background, your career, who you are.
Okay, well, you know, I usually start by saying I'm a farm girl from Indiana. So I grew up on a farm.
Fit right in.
I was raised by my dad and two brothers on a working farm. So that was my upbringing very much. I loved horses. I rode horses. I was in 4-H.
Okay.
So probably what you think of, rural area, worked on the farm.
Around here?
In Frankfort, Indiana.
Okay.
So a couple hours south of here. And my dad, I went to a very small high school, but my dad was pretty adamant that I go to college. We didn't have that many people that went to college from my small high school, rural high school.
Yeah.
And so I went to IU. I think, if I remember, his words were, and I was first generation to college, so my dad didn't go to college. And I think his words were, get in the best, cheapest school you can. And so I applied to Purdue and IU, public schools. You know, at least at the time, I didn't think a private school would even have been an option for us.
Okay.
And so I went to IU and changed my majors a couple times. So I happened to be really good in math in high school, which I think probably maybe some of the guidance counselors thought, you know,
they noticed.
Kind of noticed you need to go to college and steered me into computer science. So, because I happen to really enjoy calculus. And so they're like, oh, you need to major in computer science. That's when computers were, you know, I hate to say it, but just becoming a thing. So
a bit newer.
Yes, I went into computer science, and you know, that's a pretty male-dominated field. So thinking about our podcast and All About the Girls, I was one of few females and doing the programming, and just didn't really enjoy it that much. And so I switched to psychology for a little while, and then I ended up as accounting major.
Wow.
So
okay, cool.
My
cool
bachelor's
journey.
is in accounting. And then I was hired by Deloitte in Chicago, so I got to the Chicago area in public accounting, working for one of the big four. I think Deloitte's actually the biggest in the world, and so I was able to work for Deloitte for 6 years, and I didn't have any clients in higher education, very few even in non-for-profit, but I had a partner that I worked for that was on the board of Dominican University.
Okay.
And that's how I got to Dominican University in higher ed. And then I went on to get my MBA with concentrations in marketing and finance, because at the time I was thinking I wanted to teach. And so there was a female dean, actually, that I became really good friends with. And she kept encouraging me, oh, you have to get your MBA so you can teach. So I ended up getting my MBA and taught auditing and accounting. And I also taught in Poland, so for our executive MBA program.
Wow.
And then I had another female role model that was the president that I ended up working with for 24 years. And she kept encouraging me to get my doctorate, and I was probably lukewarm on it for many years. And then I just decided that you know, she would always ask, do you want to be a college president? I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to be a college president and to go back and get a doctorate. I knew that I didn't think I wanted to be a full-time professor. And then I decided I needed a doctorate so that it was my decision and not someone else's, because if I didn't have the credential, that determined my fate.
But if you had it, then you could decide.
Then I could decide.
I love that thinking.
And so I wanted kind of my future to be in my hands, and so I went and got my doctorate in higher education at the University of Pennsylvania, and was a Dominican until 2017, and then was hired as the president, the first female president. So another, as we think about
another great
all about the girls,
points.
I'm the first female president of Calumet College of St. Joseph, and I'm the 7th president, but the first 4 were all vowed religious priests, and then 2 laymen, and now I'm the first female president. So,
how incredible.
Of a male-sponsored order, so I think that's very cool, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's flash back a bit. Growing up, siblings?
I do. I have 2 brothers, and actually I have 2 daughters. So when we talk all about the girls, I have
so
2
grew up with
daughters.
2 siblings, or 2 brothers, so only girl growing up.
Yeah.
On a farm. You probably did all of the hard work right along with them, I'd guess. Yes.
Yep, exactly.
And did you help on the farm a lot?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
yes.
so like probably summers, before school, after school, all that stuff, working on the farm.
I could drive a tractor. I think I'm probably the best female parallel parker, too.
I can't imagine
I have
driving
some
a tractor.
skills that most people wouldn't know about. And
probably can drive a stick shift, drive a tractor,
I
parallel
learned on
park,
a stick
all
shift.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
cool.
My first car was a stick shift, and so
it's like, I think that rural community upbringing helps with a lot of that stuff. Like you get to learn a lot more about just that's the stuff you'd just never be a part of if you grew up in the city.
And I'm never afraid to drive in bad weather. I think that's the other thing that when people are talking about the region and, are we going to close school? I'm thinking, okay, when you grow up on a farm, it doesn't matter what the weather is. You still have work to do. You make it happen. It might take a little bit longer, but you do what you need to do. So
I feel that in my soul. That's how I got raised, was just like I talked before at the event and on the podcast both of, my dad always said, like, go out, work everyone else. So that's just kind of how we were raised. And we weren't on a working farm, but we were raised, my mom was raised on a farm, and we were very rural. And I think it's like, well, it's snowing, but we just got to make it happen.
Right.
I love that mindset.
And then I had 2 daughters, and my oldest daughter has 2 girls, so now I have 2 granddaughters. So
you really are all about the girls.
But my husband is
He's surrounded by all the
girls all
That's
the time.
Awesome. Yeah.
We've only had girl dogs, and we've actually been a host family to, I think, 15 or 18 international students, all girls, too.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack. I love this. So let's talk about that. Tell me a little bit, I want to talk about your girls as well, but tell me a little bit about that experience. What made you do that? How did you get into it? And then tell me some of the outcomes and experiences you had.
Well, we actually, it was kind of an experience that happened a little bit by accident. I oversaw, as part of my job responsibilities, the English language school at Dominica, my former institution. And in the process, they were looking for host families, and so I decided I would be a host family. And then my husband, because we had 2 daughters and they were very young at the time, he said, only if you want to do this, we're only going to host girls, because I have 2 daughters running around. And so that was an incredible experience. And the students that we hosted, again, they were all learning English, so they were all around the world. And some barely knew English, and others were pretty proficient. I remember that at the time I was 36, and I was host mom for someone that was 38 that was a real estate attorney from Brazil.
Oh my gosh. So these aren't necessarily students. It's just exchange
not all
in general.
Of them.
Okay.
Probably most of them were in the youngest student we had was 16, and the oldest student we had was the 38-year-old,
so
and she was an attorney.
Cool.
And then actually another student, I just sent her a message today because She was an architect, or is an architect, but an architectural journalist. So she writes for a magazine in Milan, Italy.
Oh,
and
amazing.
She reached out to me because she wants to send her daughter to the U.S. for this summer to do some camps and stay with us. So that's very exciting.
How cool. What a cool connection to keep.
Probably the two other, I could go through many of them, but two other significant ones was we hosted a student from Japan. At the time, she was in her early 20s. And our oldest daughter ended up being the flower girl in her wedding. So we went to Tokyo, and that was an incredible experience, and have vacation with her and her parents. Her parents didn't speak English, so it was translating.
Okay.
And then my youngest daughter ended up doing a study abroad when she was in high school, and went to Japan to study and go to school, and ended up seeing her in Tokyo. And then I just got back from Spain, where one of the students that we hosted when she was 18 is now a diplomat for Spain. And so I was with our student honors trips. So we have a honors learning community at Calumet College. And so there were 7 students that went to Spain, and she was able to spend some time with us. And then I got to see the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, and now she is a diplomat overseeing embassies around the world, and she's getting ready to go to Kenya. So again, just the amazing women that I had the pleasure of meeting during my life journey that have gone on to do amazing things that I still kind of stay in contact with.
Yeah, that is an incredible.
And it really influenced my daughter. So the one that ended up studying in Japan, but now she's definitely traveled a lot. And she did a study abroad in New Zealand for a semester at the University of Auckland. And our oldest daughter, who her first language was Polish, because we had she wasn't related, but we called her grandma, and she was Polish, so only spoke Polish to her. So she had that cultural experience, and we've been to Poland a few times.
Wow.
And then our youngest daughter took Japanese, but she will, I'm sure, have a international experience.
Yeah, I think
working.
Seeing it so young and seeing it as you grow up multiple times probably helps realize, like, how easy it is, and that there are those outlets. Like, so many people I think probably don't know, like, look for this, and there are these opportunities, and you can do it like this or here. So they saw it, they probably latched on quickly and said, well, we can do this too. And it probably allowed them to travel so much more than they maybe would have. And
when we went, I took my 2 daughters to Poland, and we took public transportation. And I know I've just recently told this story where we get off of the airplane in Warsaw, and I get us on a train, and we're taking a train, and they're like, how do you know where you're going? I said, I don't. And then they were a little nervous, and my oldest daughter, who spoke some Polish, said, well, I can't get us around. I said, this is what happens when people come to the U.S.
And this is why we should all have a little grace.
Yeah. You know, it allows us to have empathy for people that are coming here.
Because it's scary.
Yeah. And so we took a public transportation, a train into Warsaw, and then got on a bus and took a bus to our hotel, and we made it. And so I think that experience really influenced my dissertation, which I wrote a 300-page dissertation, and it was internationalization of small college campuses and the role of presidential leadership. So it was before I was a president, but I think really understanding the international experiences and exposures that students have on campus, whether it's being exposed to other students from other cultures, countries, or it's study abroad, or it's content in the curriculum, or it's faculty experiences that they bring back to the classroom. So that's really cool. And just pushing for more of that exposure kind of during that college experience. And part of that was I didn't travel anywhere. So
most of my
first
travel has been
experience
adulthood.
on an airplane was after graduation, my senior year in college. And before that, we had been to Florida once, and otherwise Kings Island, so the neighboring state, and that was all the travel that I had done. So since then, I've traveled a lot, but I think my exposure to other cultures and people unlike myself growing up was very limited until after college, really.
I feel exactly the same.
I mean, I was exposed in college, but maybe didn't embrace it, or I have certainly,
or maybe just on a smaller scale comparatively.
So
that's really amazing. Wow. And so that probably gave that experience to you and your kids and your husband. Like your whole family got this really cool experience. Right. And then now you guys get to kind of go visit. Yeah, my sister had an exchange student. He was 15, I think, from Bangkok, Thailand. Right? Yeah, I believe he was from Thailand. And he was just an amazing kid. And it was in 2019, and then he was here in 2020 and had to go home early.
Okay.
But it was cool to see that experience from his point of view. And my husband and I took him to Chicago, and he had never been to Chicago. He really likes the city. My sister lives in a much more rural community. So for him, learning that rural was very interesting as well, because he came from a city, I think it was about 45 minutes outside of, was it Bangkok? I believe so. And it was like 45 minutes outside of there, but it was still much more bustling. It was much more like a Chicago where you can get most things delivered. Yeah. You can get an Uber pretty quickly. Like those sorts of things were very easy for him. And then he moved in with my sister and her kids, where there is no such thing as an Uber that far out. Delivery also does not exist. Like you really couldn't just be on your own. I think that was something that he took as a very hard learn. And then similarly, when we took him to Chicago, it was like, you could tell he felt much more at home in this area that was much more bustling. And it was cool to see those two kind of different versions of him.
Well, I think about some of the students that we hosted. The one from Japan was from Tokyo, and I took her to our family farm, and so we actually rode on the combine, and so she had all that experience. And also our student from Brazil was from Sao Paulo, and she was able to experience our family farm. And the one from Japan, Tokyo, we ended up taking on a vacation to Wisconsin. That was a lake vacation in a cottage. So they also definitely had great experiences, I hope. It was...
I'm certain. And now that you guys have kept that connection and they can almost like return that when you come visit them, it's like a whole new cool thing.
They now have children, and one of the children may come and stay with us. So
please keep us posted. If that happens, we need pictures or something. That's going to be absolutely amazing. I love it so much. So talk a little bit about your current career, your current job. You run CCSJ. It's been several years now, of course. Tell us about it when you got there to now. How has it grown? How has it changed? What do you love? Anything you don't? Fill us in.
Well, when I came to Calumet College, for me it was a little bit coming home. So we had lived and raised our family in the western suburbs of Chicago, so definitely Chicagoland. So to be able to come across the border and be back home in Indiana and have my personal and professional life in Indiana was really fun for me, because my husband and I both went to IU. And our oldest daughter went to IU, and our youngest daughter went to Butler. So we're very much...
this like Hoosier...
Exactly. I like to say I'm Hoosier through and through. So it was kind of nice to come back to Indiana. And I wasn't familiar with Calumet College, so they recruited me, and I had one of my colleagues from Penn actually recommend the school.
Really?
Had seen the ad and sent it to me saying, you should look at this school. Are you familiar with it? It sounds like you. So We serve very much at Calumet College, the region.
I was just going to say, dive into that a little bit more for those that might not know as well.
So Calumet College, we're a very small school, but we are comprehensive. So we have associate degrees, bachelor's degrees, and master's degrees, and a few adult degree completion programs. So they are accelerated degree completion in business. There's a business fast track, and then there's also a public safety. If you have some college credit but no degree, it's a accelerated program where you can get your degree in about 14 months, 12 to 14 months. And so when I looked at the college, Calumet College is the first Hispanic serving institution in the state of Indiana, so they have a very diverse population, and that was something that was very attractive to me.
Yeah.
They served a significant percentage, I think about half of our students are first generation to college or first in their family to college. And so that was my own experience. So that was of interest to me. And I liked the comprehensive from an associate degree to a master's program. We don't have any doctorate programs yet, but it's that was attractive. And then being able to be an institution that really serves the region and the neighboring cities and south side of Chicago too, but I can look out my window and see the skyline. So I still am connected to Chicago, if nothing more than my sight line. But actually I go into Chicago for meetings every once in a while. I'm going in for a dinner on Friday.
Perfect.
So, it's there.
It's another great thing about being in this region.
Exactly.
Is you do have that Hoosier feel. There's a lot of Hoosier mentality. We're very kind, and it's a great region, and we really all look to serve the community and help one another. But then you've got the city right there whenever you want to hop there.
Right. So yet you also have the dunes and the natural resources. And I love Lake Michigan, and I like to be in the water during the summer as much as possible, whether it's kayaking or paddleboarding, or I do open water swim. So,
okay, cool.
Or beach volleyball. I play beach volleyball. So definitely being Lake Michigan is a huge pull for me.
Okay.
And while we live in Whiting most of the time, we do have a house in Beverly Shores, so we're able to spend the weekends during the summer as much as possible. So I felt like it was kind of Calumet College found me and just pulled me back to Indiana.
Perfect fit,
and in an area where I had, I found that I resided in my home in Oak Park, but I really lived when I was, in Beverly Shores or in Northwest Indiana, and so it's been a great fit for me, and personally, the college is in Hammond, so that's the other beauty. It has a Whiting address, so it's very confusing to people, but it is located in Hammond, but I live right downtown Whiting, and so I love the little town of Whiting, and then Hammond with the school and the pavilion and the Lost Marsh Golf Course. And
both are fantastic. Yeah,
and
I
the
love
marina.
having those too.
So the Whiting Robertsdale area, I think, just has a lot to offer, and I hope that what we can do is be an anchor to Hammond, Whiting, and East Chicago, because we were founded in East Chicago. So our first 20 years was in East Chicago.
Spots.
And so it's been over the last 6 years. So I started in 2017. So I'm finishing up my 6th year as president. And it's been a couple of years of the pandemic. That wasn't fun, but I think that forced us to really focus on the future. I know my mantra was we're going to position ourselves for the future and position ourselves for post-pandemic, and we'll manage this the best way we can, but we can't turn all of our focus on managing the pandemic, because when it's over, then we're in a worse shape.
You've got to look at both, right?
So we were able to start new programs, build a new residence hall, do a master lease on an apartment building, start a new sprint football team, some additional academic programs, and we've been successful in securing a number of grants to elevate our Hispanic serving institution status and make sure that we are strengthening the institution. So that's been also really rewarding. And the Lilly Endowment, I can't say enough about their support of higher education in the state of Indiana, and so they've been supportive. And this summer we have 7 youth camps on campus this summer that are all funded by a grant from the Lilly Endowment for the next 3 years to increase the exposure of youth on college campuses. So, you know, there's a lot of people that think they aren't prepared for college, but maybe nobody really feels prepared for college.
Very few that do.
For Calumet College, you know, I think that we are a good fit for a lot of people, and that if you don't think you're prepared, we're still a place that provides a lot of resources, a very small, I think, nurturing environment to help students kind of meet them where they are and try to understand their dreams and their goals and help them get there.
And I've definitely seen that through the programs I've learned about from just being, you know, this career takes you into the region pretty heavy duty. And it's just cool to see, like, if you don't feel like you're ready, we can help you get there. Once you're here, we're also going to make sure that you feel included. And you've got really cool programs, even the stuff you do on, you know, day one of classes and the things leading up to day one of classes to help people get comfortable. And then same thing with graduates and the things you do for them. All of that just makes people feel really included and handheld.
Yes.
But without actually hand holding, so that they do become independent, fantastic people, even though they walked in maybe not quite feeling ready.
Right.
And that's really incredible to watch you guys kind of, that's a tough line to balance. Not too much hand holding, just enough, making you feel comfortable, but out of your comfort zone sometimes. All of those balances that you guys hit repeatedly are really tough to do, and I think that's incredible. Yeah, it's great. Good.
So we're definitely looking at strategic planning is a big part of my job, and making sure that I position the college for the future and make sure that it grows and that it's healthy and that we are a great resource for the community. And I'm also, we just announced a major fundraising campaign, and we are launching a $7.5 million fundraising campaign. And in the quiet phase, we have identified lead gifts and pledges totaling $6 million. So we're really excited, and we just went public on April 21st. So it's also, when you talk about things that I love meeting alumni that haven't been connected to the college, and I show them around and tell them about everything that we're doing, and they light up, or they're, I come across somebody that's just excited that we're now in the news a little bit more, or there are things happening, and you know, my hope, and part of the capital campaign, is to build pride in place. So it's for students that are currently on campus, but also for the community, and also for our alumni to feel proud about the place they went to college. So and
I love that even your location kind of gives that community feel. Like you're in the middle of that community, and you can see it and you can feel it. And then the additions that you've made, like those buildings, that student living, all of that stuff has helped, I think, even more, because now you've got this really great balance where you have a campus and you've got that campus feel, but you also are right here in this community. And I think that that's huge, and it's tough to balance. So the fact that you've done it is great.
The other thing that I want to mention, and probably should have started with this, the other draw for me was Calumet College is the only Catholic college in Northwest Indiana. Now we sit here in Valpo, so we're one of 2 faith-based institutions that are grounded in Northwest Indiana. And so that was also really important to me, because the mission spoke to me, and we are really trying to live out our mission, and the missionaries of the precious blood really do go where the work is difficult, but the difference they can make is great. And so I think they also, as an order, talk about being ordinary people, hopefully doing extraordinary work, and that's sort of where I feel fits with my personality. ordinary person, and I hope that I'll do extraordinary work in my lifetime.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well said. So you maybe mentioned a couple. Let's talk about some of those women in your life that have really impacted you, made a strong impact on your life. I think that could be anywhere from when you were a kid to growing up to some of those students you had in your home. Tell me about who are those women that stick out to you throughout your lifetime that have really impacted you and helped make you who you are.
Boy, there are a lot of them, but if I were just to think about sort of my lifetime, I had two aunts that went to college that I think from afar I would just admire them and think, wow, they're in college in these big schools. And one of my aunts was in education, and so she was a teacher, spent 35 years in teaching, and the other one was in retail and she actually traveled to Tokyo, I remember at one time, and she was a buyer for a big retail company. And so I think I sort of watched them. It helped shape probably subconsciously, I want to be in a business environment, but I want to have an impact on others.
Yeah.
And then when I got to, I also have friend groups that I don't mention too often, but I do think about my college roommates that have been with me every step of the way. So I think about those really good friends that when you're feeling like you can't accomplish something,
no matter what,
accounting was not an easy major in the Kelly School.
Imagine,
passing the CPA was not easy, but to have those good friends, they're probably kidding, saying you can do it. You're the smartest person I know.
But those ones that will have your back
right.
when you're feeling down about yourself, when you're feeling great, they'll support you and cheer with you. But when you're feeling down, they'll cheer for you.
Right.
And that's really important to have that.
So
we'll talk ourselves out of success.
Exactly.
All the time.
And I think just having that group going through college was really important. And then at Deloitte, it was pretty male dominated. So everyone I worked for, except for one, were males. But I did have a female that I worked for that was married and had children, and I always sort of admired her. And then when I went to Dominican, again, sort of by accident, got into higher education, the Dominican sisters, I think I was in awe over how smart they were.
Okay.
So I remember one of the sisters talking about going to Yale and Oxford, and she was like 85 at the time, and I probably was sitting there with my mouth open because I remember she said, well, women went to college, and I thought, really? In the 20s? Is that really?
I would have said no.
They went to Yale and Oxford? And so I think I was just in awe over how smart they were as religious women, and was friends with a couple Dominican sisters that really just probably shaped me from their ability to be compassionate as well as just amazingly smart individuals and intellectuals, but compassionate, graceful, caring, and then my the president that I worked for 24 years was the first lay president. So there were women religious, and that was the first lay president. And so certainly being able to learn a lot from her impacted me for sure. And so those are probably, from a career standpoint, I think of the role models, but there are probably equal male role models in my life. So I think that's something that we always kind of talk about, the female role models, how we got to where we are. But I also think of some of the men that I worked for that were just really encouraging. Of course, my dad, who always says if it was easy, anybody could do it.
Yes.
So whenever I
Where
meet
he's
with
not looking
challenges,
at you, a male or a female, he doesn't even care.
It's like you can do it.
Yeah. Super important.
Yeah. So I think that I've had role models in both cases, and then I've had people that I've learned from. What not to do too. So,
well, probably men and women both. Where
yes,
it's just like,
exactly.
Okay, you're teaching me how I don't want to be, or you're teaching me what not to do.
Right. Or
and
how you want to lead.
Impactful.
People have different leadership styles, and I'd like to think I've read a lot of books. When I read leadership books now, I don't know that I ever read anything that I haven't thought of.
Okay.
But more, I like to think they're reinforcing in some ways so I'd like to think that I'm a servant leader, but an empowering leader, and also a very caring leader. And
have you seen a big change in your leadership through the years? As far as, like, I'll give you a good example. I'll throw myself under the bus. I came into this company in 2013. I had managed a couple restaurants, nothing big, and I think managing people for me has been one of my biggest learns within the company. How I managed people, led people, hopefully empowered people in 2013 versus now, 10 years later, is immensely different. I've learned a ton. I definitely learned probably the hard way what not to do. How do you feel about your journey along that management? Is it very different, or do you think you learned so much going into it that it's similar? What does that look like for you?
I don't think it probably is very different. Even when I was at Deloitte and a manager at Deloitte and all the people that work for me, I think I lead with compassion. I never want anyone to feel belittled, or I don't want to diminish their confidence. I want to have them grow, and at the same time, I have had difficult conversations with people because I'm also a person that thinks, in the whole scheme of things, life's pretty short. And that if you're not happy doing what you're doing, how can we get you to a place where you are happy? And sometimes that means in a different job somewhere else.
Yeah, sure.
And I want to make that transition positive if I can.
Yeah.
Because I hate for someone to spend a lot of work hours in an unhappy state.
Yeah,
because
life is short, you're right.
I think life is too short, and you always are thinking, oh, well, next year it'll be better, and next year's not a given, and so
don't waste time on that.
That's really you don't get this day back, and so do something good with it. Try to be happy. Try to make someone else's life a little better, and so
that's the goal.
I think I lead a little bit with that in mind, and I like to have fun, so. I think that has probably not changed, so I work really hard, and I think everyone, you want to create an environment where they also want to work hard and accomplish goals, but I also want to have fun, so I try to do things for the college community that, whether it's a relaxation day and have massages for everyone, or a family day and we have a game day out in the alumni park.
Or you guys do really fun stuff.
Yeah. So I think I've always tried to keep that in mind when you can feel like, oh gosh, everyone just needs a break. What's something fun we can do?
Yep.
So I try to bring that to the table, and I'm personally very a planner and goal-oriented, so I am always sort of looking at the future. So I think it's also a way to manage myself as well. To remind myself that you can't always be focused on, next month or what you need to get done by the end of the month. It's like, okay, let's just halt for today and
celebrate the wins, and don't forget, we always say internally, like, how can we ensure we're always, because we are moving very quickly, most people are, most industries are, so we're moving so fast that sometimes I think we forget to pause and say, hey, we just did this really awesome thing. Let's take a moment to say, we rock. Let's pat each other on the back, ourselves, whatever we got to do, let's celebrate that. And I think you're right. Let's take those times. That's really important, and we don't want to move past them too quickly.
The other thing I think of from a management style, and something I've done for a while, probably 15 years. I do what I call a 3-2-1.
Okay.
So I have my direct reports comment on 3 things that they're really proud of, that they've accomplished, that they feel really good about. 2 things where they see area of improvement or that they want to work on, and then 1 personal goal. If they feel compelled to share, that we can all help them achieve too. So it might be, I want to read more. Or it might be, I want to, run a marathon, or I want to balance my work life and be there for my kids more. And how can we kind of all be, if nothing else, kind of the cheerleaders to say, okay, what'd you do with what outdoor activity did you do with your family this week, or something that you can.
I'm taking notes because I love that idea. That's a great way to look at things, but still having that positivity on the top.
Right. Personnel annual evaluations, we're getting ready to do all those in the summer. And for a lot of people, they don't want to do them. And I think that's just a simple way, if nothing else, that I've tried to break it down. Okay, don't make it that hard. Let's just do like a 3-2-1 because, and it's a lot of time, even the next layer down, where my reports may not want to do all their personnel evaluations. I said, this is just an easy way to launch it. And then you start with conversations and what else, and it leads you in different directions. And we also have a form that we use. So
that's really cool. I like that a lot. That's great. Let's talk about your kiddos. So you've got 2 daughters. Mm-hmm. How old are they?
31 and 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me about them as you had them growing up to now. Are they exactly what you expected? Did they throw you for loops? Is there one are they different as people? Are they similar? Tell me kind of how that worked. I have no kids, I think you know. So I love to learn all of the angles of parenting, but I also love for our audience and listeners to kind of get to know a little bit more about just you specifically as a parent and those kids and how they've impacted you.
So I would, my greatest job for sure is being a mom. So with all my accomplishments in my career, I'm always quick to say if there was anything I wouldn't want to give up, it would be that.
That's amazing.
That job. So
okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that they are very successful, both of them. One of them is an emergency room PA, and the other one works in accounting. And she works for PricewaterhouseCoopers. So
fantastic.
They're both in Indianapolis, so that makes it nice.
Still close-ish, just a few hours away, not bad.
They were, to the extent possible, I have to give my husband a lot of credit because he had very structured hours with his job, and I had very unstructured hours and a lot of evenings, so he was always the after-school help. But he went to, I was always the morning, but after 3 o'clock, he got them to all their practices, sporting, and I would kind of show up right when the game started. So I would be calling him saying, okay, I'm on my way. He's like, it's starting in 10 minutes. So
Hurry
I would
up.
literally walk into volleyball games or soccer matches with my suit and heels. And I thought, I'm sure someday, I'm sure they made fun of me a lot, but that's okay.
You got to do what you got to do. And I totally felt supported.
Yeah,
it was just
and so I wanted to be there for their athletic events and to support them. But certainly they saw a mom that juggled work, and when I did my MBA and my doctorate, I was working full time. So how you manage all that, and still are there.
So much.
And my oldest daughter just sent me the most beautiful text just the other day as she's kind of managing now, working and having 2 little kids. And so I know one of the things that you always feel stressed and pulled in 100 different directions, but I would also try to find the joy in that. And when toys or whatever's all over the place, I would stop and say, someday I will really miss this.
I just heard this somewhere else, and I thought it was that's such a phenomenal point of like, there are so many parents who really enjoyed being parents that miss that a ton. So while it might be stressful in the moment, you do want to enjoy that. And there's probably 100 other things like that in parenting that, okay, pause. I know I might be mad about this, but the coloring on the wall is going to be funny one day, and I'm going to just love it.
Right.
And so enjoying those moments when you can. That's really great that you thought that even in the moments. I think that's really, really intelligent. And it's a great kind of calm personality trait that you can take.
A lot of sleepless nights, though. I think I still have trouble sleeping. So
I cannot imagine.
I do tend to worry about
still probably
them.
Right?
Yeah, I think that never goes away. And now that my daughter has 2 kids, I can honestly say, she's like, oh my gosh, how do you not worry about them? I feel like I'm always worrying already. And I'm like, well, that really never goes away. It's how you
I haven't told you, but I always still worry.
That. Yeah. And I think that's also where you have to rely on your faith a little bit.
Yep.
And so I share that too with them, that there are days where you have to kind of let someone else shoulder all
trust
the
in your
stress
faith
and
trust
burden.
in yourself that you've done a really great job and they're set and ready for the world.
Yeah.
And is everything going to be perfect? Probably not.
Yeah.
But you've made them fantastic kids who are grown and can handle it. And I think that's really... That's
now I worry about my granddaughter, so it's just...
the stress. I have nieces.
And going to school, and it's just a different world.
It
seems like, and the social media and all that. I don't know, with girls, that's always something.
Yep, and then you got to teach them, same thing. It's all about teaching them early and often and what to do and what not to do, and just be really cautious that it might say that Snapchat disappears and it doesn't, so don't do that.
I remember when you felt like you knew who your kids were talking to and with, and you just don't have.
And when I was a kid, it was so easy because really, when I was young, like, I don't want to date myself, but cell phones weren't a thing. We didn't have. I didn't have a cell phone until I was in my 20s. Yeah. So for me, it was. My parents did know all my friends because they were either at the house or I was getting dropped off at their house, or they saw them. They knew who we were talking to. They knew about all of that stuff. It was so much easier to keep track of. And now it is harder because you're still doing those things. They're coming over or vice versa, but now they can talk online and you can have friends that they can have great friends that you've never met. And then they talk to all the time, and it's just harder to catch and upkeep. But I think it goes back to that, that you can trust in your ability as a parent and that you're doing the right thing and that they will come out perfect in their own crazy way.
I love to see how they've developed into young women and adults and professionals and so
and now like
really
she's
fun.
texting you saying, I don't know, you did amazing. I have talked before on the podcast about telling my mom very similar, like I didn't have kids, so I never had that realization. I more had the realization of like, I think from like 12 to now, I think I was 21 or 2 when I texted my mom, like, I think I was mean to you for most of my, teenage girls are just evil. Candidly, our hormones are crazy. We just don't know what we're doing. We're all grouchy all the time. I certainly was anyway. And so I was just harsh to my mom, I think, growing up. And I was definitely, I wouldn't say I was my dad's favorite, but I'm most like my dad. So for him, me and him had this bond, right? And I didn't necessarily always feel that with my mom. So I was just harsher on her. And I remember like 22 just being like, I'm really sorry. I'm waking up now and probably have much more clear eyes to say, I was just a grouchy teenager for so long. I love what you did. Thank you for putting up with me. You're fantastic. You're a saint for doing it, Yeah.
Well, my oldest daughter, probably she would realize that definitely there were moments during her teenage years. But I would say we're very much alike. Okay. So we're also a little maybe like magnets sometimes that you can't put together because we are very much alike.
Yeah.
That's good to see too. And I think as we've grown older and had kids, I look at her and just think, wow, it just feels like deja vu, and her husband and the things that they like to do. It's like just seeing us.
Isn't that so
repeat.
Interesting? I'm seeing that now, even the weirdest things I'll notice that I do like my mom.
Yes.
Like I sneeze like my mom. What? How do you sneeze like anyone? I don't know, but I do. Like, we have the exact same sneeze. It's very loud. It's over boisterous. I don't know what it is, but it's too much. Or yeah, how I clean the house. There's like so many things that I do like my mom that you just don't notice until like I don't even know how it hits you, but you just get these moments where you're like, I see you doing that. Now I know why I do that. And it's so interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. That's the progressive. You might be your parents. All that.
Yes, exactly.
I see that oh my gosh, often.
So
I
often.
Think, oh my gosh. Okay.
I'm definitely like both of my parents, but like I said, growing up, I was always like, oh, me and my dad, we're so close. We're so much like each other. There are still plenty of those points that are true, but now I see a lot of my mom and my ways, and it's cool to see. And it is, you're right.
I just, one of the things that I've instituted at the college is Women's History Month event, where I do a little bit like this, where I'm the interviewer, and I have a panel of women, and the last one was women that tell their stories through media, and whether it's written, media, podcasting, and so we had a really good session. I think of a couple recent women. One of our alums, Vicky's neighbor, she wrote a book called Authenticity Reawakening. Authenticity Reawakened is the name of the book. And I had met her through a former colleague and who knew she was an alum of Calumet College. And so I had met her and then recruited her for the board, and now she's on our board. And this book, from a leadership style, it's not all about leadership. It's really about living your authentic life. And so I know there's a little exercise in that book that I did that, so I'm still looking for improvement or understanding what I can do better, or understanding what made you who you are. So that exercise, she talks about significant events in your life, what you learned from them, how that helped shape the authentic you. So
interesting. I love this.
Really enjoyed her book, and I'll
have to check that out, because I think it's interesting, because I think we often don't pause to look back at who we are and why. The why is important, and I think it obviously, as that seems to be saying, it's probably built on a lot of those big pieces of your life. But what are those?
Right.
And how often have we sat and looked back at what they are and put that together? So that's really
shaped
cool.
Either, who you are as a professional or a person or a parent. So I would say that book definitely influenced me, and I read it probably 3 years ago. So I had been into my presidency a couple of years, and she came on the board, and I got her book, and I really found it enlightening. So I'm still learning as well. I just went to Spain, and I felt like a student because as an accounting major and spending most of my life in business, and I would say my art knowledge is underdeveloped, and even architecture and history. And
it's so beautiful.
I just felt like I was a student soaking everything in, and it made me want to go back to school and learn about history and art, and so it's just I think the country in itself, as does Poland, has just a very interesting history, and under different rules, and occupied by different countries at different times, and so it was a great experience. I think for our students too, but for me, I felt like a student again. So it was
and
great.
We are constantly learning, so it's great to almost have that moment of realization too, of like, oh, no, that's true, I am.
I think
there's
the whole
so many
lifelong
things we can learn.
learning, I enjoy learning something new. So
I love that. Now, I want to mention something you mentioned early on. I want to go back to. You mentioned, in kind of just talking a bit about yourself, I think swimming and volleyball. Tell us, so you seem pretty active, yes. Tell us about sports, activity. What do you run? Tell us, that seems like a long list, so I want to touch on it.
Yes, that balancing being a president and kind of your workout schedule is the greatest challenge for me.
I can only imagine.
So during the summers when I feel like I have a little more control over my schedule, I try to be a little more disciplined.
Okay.
But I love nature, so walking outside on the beach. My husband's a big beach volleyball player, so
love that.
Yep, I spend a lot of time. And then my
do you
oldest,
play too?
I do. It depends the level of competition. So
Yeah, some of those
if it's
guys-
a mixed
some of those folks
level,
are
I
crazy.
can get right in there. But if it's
Me too.
If it's all guys and I'm the only girl and they look real serious, I don't really. That's
I'm
not
not
what I
trying to
want
get
to do.
spiked on.
Yeah.
That's not my life.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to die. I'm not going to do anything that I think I'll get hurt. And,
Yeah.
So I really enjoy, but the other, just being on the water, I enjoy. I like to say I can do almost any sport and none of them very well. So I like to golf.
It's like the jack of all trades, but with sports.
Yes,
I love this.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so I like to golf, but I don't golf enough to be really good. I'm definitely a great cheerleader for all of our athletes at school because I know a little bit about almost every sport. So, and I think growing up with brothers, but then both of my daughters were athletes, so volleyball and soccer.
It's a big part of your life, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a big part of my life. And my oldest daughter and I are trying to, she will do a mini triathlon, and I'm trying to decide if I could do one with her. It would be a great accomplishment.
Okay.
It's something I've always wanted to do. So
That's so
I bike
fun.
ride, and I definitely swim, and I used to run. But so I've done a lot of 5Ks.
The swimming's what scares me more than the running.
Yeah, so
I think you could do it.
swimming with a lot of people also scares me. So
Yeah,
I've
me too.
swam for a long time, but never in a race with a bunch of people swimming over you. So we'll see if that happens. So,
I hope you do. That's really neat.
I can come back and tell you if I'm able. That for me has always been a life goal to.
Yeah.
My husband did triathlons, and my son-in-law does triathlons, and so it was always something that I thought, I don't care about my time, just being able
Just
to
doing it.
just being
Yep.
able to accomplish it, and it gives you something to sort of work for and work towards and keep you motivated. So
Yeah, I
So-
like the race aspect of those just because I've never done a tri or even a mini. I've done, the closest thing is Tippecanoe State Park has one. It's super fun. It's run, bike, kayak.
Oh, okay.
So that I've done that once, and I think it's like a 5K run, close to the same on the bike, and then a 1 mile paddle.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I did that once.
Okay.
I want to do it again this
That
year. I'll
would be
keep you posted.
fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted.
So
I think
I'll
it's in
do
August.
one, and then we can do one
Okay,
together
we'll do
after
that.
I've got one
that'll
under
be
my
super.
belt.
And then I
So-
don't have to swim. For me, that was like always the thing. I'm like, I've been swimming since I was a kid, but not ever competitively. I don't know that I do very well at it. I could try it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drown, but I just don't know that I'd go well. It was always the most nerve-wracking part for me, but then that took it away because I've been kayaking since I was a kid. So for me, that's the easy part. Yeah. So that's
would be
cool.
something
Okay.
fun. So
I'll see you there. I'll tell you about it. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll keep those dreams alive.
Okay,
with
yeah, we'll
respect to
keep
working
those
out.
rolling. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about career. So when you started your career, I know you've obviously done a couple different things. How different is that from where you are today? Or maybe your expectations then versus what is the actual today?
my career, I would say I'm very happy with my career. Public accounting was a great start for me. I was an audit manager for Borg Warner, Navistar Financial, some savings and loans, but Borg Warner was my big client, so that's a manufacturing client. And that was just a great experience for me to learn about other industries. And I think I like the audit part where you complete the financial statements, you kind of tie it up with a bow, and then you're on to something else.
Package, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a light at the end of the tunnel and a completion. So that was something that I enjoyed, and also had a really good friend that worked for the firm too that we started together. So that was a friendship that developed, and I just was out seeing her in Wyoming. She's since moved out there, so that was fun. And then when I started my career in higher education, I started as the controller and then became eventually the senior VP for finance and administration. So I was the CFO and the COO of an institution about 3,500 students, so much larger institution.
Yeah.
But that experience, I started out as a very young controller, and then I was the youngest vice president on the cabinet. And when I left, I was the most senior, but not the youngest. There was a person younger than me,
but on the
cabinet.
youngest side.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
That's fantastic.
I was probably young for the position I was in when I started it. Now, I was maybe young when I started as a president, but I don't know what the average age is, but I'm probably approaching the average age of college presidents now. So
okay.
Now,
and how does that feel, though? Like all of that through your CPA career and everything, now you're this big president of a college. Like, that's got to feel fantastic. And did it feel crazy when you did that the first time? Obviously, you've done it before, but even that first time, how does that feel to you? Did it feel crazy? Did you have imposter syndrome, or was it like, nope, this is where I'm here. I'm here and I'm supposed to be?
No, I think imposter syndrome, and I've talked about that, that's real today.
Yeah.
It's real with me. I think a lot of my friends, my daughters, I mean, we fight it all the time. And
I agree.
I definitely try to even acknowledge that and talk about it with my daughters, because even books that I've read for female women in leadership, we try to solve every problem before we decide we're going to go for a job. Mm-hmm. We don't even have the job to even try to solve the problems that it's going to create. We haven't even applied, but before we even apply, we're thinking, can I manage this? What if there's travel? Can I do it? I mean, it's alive and well still. And I definitely, higher education, I don't know the exact numbers now, but when I started and was a vice president for sure, about 26%, I remember the first national conference I went to, 26% of the college presidents were women. Then it dropped to 24%. That's data is about 5 years old, so I don't know what it is now. But what I took away was it is the industry with the highest percentage of women in the C-suite or as the CEOs.
Okay, fantastic. I didn't know that.
So when you think about imposter syndrome, we still have it, and yet we're in an industry where I do have a lot of women colleagues that I can call upon, and I do. I have
good.
Female presidents, my former president. So I definitely talked to her.
From the previous school, you mean?
From the previous school. So she's someone that I could lean on. And then I have developed friendships with other college presidents. And
that's great.
And one of my colleagues from Penn was a college president in Maine. And so when I first became president, she had already been president a year, and it was a similar school. And so I think that network of women is really helpful.
That's great.
But we all experience the imposter syndrome. So I thought it was only me and people that I look at, and I think it's definitely.
And I think that's so great that you talk to your daughters about that. I think it's great to say that out loud as much as we can, because then it's like, oh, someone that they look up to, like yourself. Okay, they go through that too? Oh, well then that's probably all of us, and it's more something that we can work towards being better at or work against, if you will, because you're doing that. You had that too, or you have that too, and I think it's just someone to relate to, and just to know, like, hey, that might happen to everybody, and here's some great tools to combat that or get over it, whatever that is. So that's really helpful to have those conversations early and often.
I remember just a conversation I had with my daughter, and she was updating her resume, and I was telling her, you should put on there, I suggest a basic understanding of Japanese language and culture, because she studied Japanese, she was in Japan, and she goes, I would never do that. If someone asked me to speak Japanese, I could not do it. And I'm like, okay, I'm telling you, your male counterpart are probably saying fluent in Japanese. Right. Or, you know, if you just put basic understanding, because
that's not
you
saying
do
you're
have
fluent.
a basic understanding, but, you know, when
valuable.
you're male, at least what you read.
Guys will usually apply even if they have, what is it? It's like if there's 3 bullet points and they have 1, they'll apply. Or, you know, it's 30%, they'll apply, where we have to be like 100% or we don't apply.
Exactly.
And like, we shouldn't be mad at them. We should do that too.
Right. And that's what I was trying to tell her. Like, you know, your counterparts are gonna put everything that they feel confident about, and you're already discounting things.
They're gonna try to say as much as they can, and you're already kicking things off the list.
Right. So
yeah, that's a great point.
So that was the conversation we just recently had.
Really tough.
I don't think she put it, but hopefully, I don't know. I don't think she took my advice.
Add it on now. It's not too late. And tell us some big obstacles that you've overcome in your life. What is some adversity that you've had to deal with?
Well, probably the pandemic was the most recent adversity.
As a president of a college, that's
and
real
fairly, you know, my presidential colleagues would have said, you know, 3 years into your you know, presidency, you'll have things rolling, you have your strategic plan, you'll know people.
You're like, well, little did you know.
Yeah, 3 years into my presidency, I started in 2017, not quite 3 years, and the pandemic hit. And
as you're trying to be hitting your stride.
Exactly. And so that, we had grown, we had hit some milestones with enrollment, and then when that hit, obviously that impacted enrollment, and it took wind out of our sails for sure, but that's why I was like, we just have to focus on post-pandemic because...
I love that you said that because it keeps people focused on the future versus dwelling with what we're dealing with.
And we're a small
And you got to deal with
school.
that too, but that future look is helpful, I think.
And being a small school, you know, we didn't have the resources to put all the things in place that some of the bigger schools were able to do. We don't have a health center on campus. You know, we definitely had limitations. So it was, you know, we've got to do the best we can and be responsible. But trying to get to perfection and managing it perfectly is gonna have us all focused on probably negative energy and not a feel good.
And no one knows what to do, so no one's going to be perfect at it anyway.
It's just, you feel like you're in a swirl the whole time. And then the work from home. You know, I'm very much a people person, and I love being around students. I get my energy from students. I like to support them. I like to find out how they're doing in class.
It's your work at work.
Yes.
And so, like, you're seeing all it, but then if you don't get to see that, it's hard.
So that was, you know, there were depressing days for me not being able to, first of all, you have this major pandemic and a ton of responsibility, and you don't quite know how you're going to come out of it. And then someone like me and my personality, you don't have that interaction with the students or the faculty or the staff, and being able to motivate them and keep them upbeat and keep the students on track. So that was a really significant challenge for me. Probably the equal to that, if not greater, was trying to get a doctorate at the University of Pennsylvania in a executive doctorate program that was accelerated in 2 years and required a dissertation. So I picked that program because I knew it would have a lot of exposure, and we did have an international. We actually studied higher education in Ireland, went to Ireland, presented to the Ministry of Ireland.
You really have been everywhere.
But it was an incredibly intensive program, and I flew to Philadelphia once a month for all my class, and then did all the homework. And it was not an online program, so it was in person, but you really had all your classwork once a month from Wednesday to Saturday, and then you did all your homework and had it submitted. And I had to do a dissertation and all my field work, and at a time when I was at a senior level.
I assumed that was remote. That's insane.
No. And so, and the imposter syndrome was
Now you're with
equally
all these guys.
elevated because most of my classmates had Ivy League degrees, and here I am thinking, what am I doing here, and can I do it? And so it was, I have in my office the picture of my diploma, and it's all in Latin, and I can't even read it. But above it is an aerial photo of my family farm, and it's a statement to students about, I'm this farm girl. That's who I am. I wouldn't have even known what an Ivy League institution was when I was growing up.
Where I came from, what I did.
Yeah, where you come from doesn't always determine where you can go, and so
I love that so much. Well said.
I have that right in my office, so it's very obvious to students, so they know where I came from too. And so I remember it was also a time when we had budget cuts and had some financial challenges at the college, and I had a freshman in college, which transitioning into college, actually she was a sophomore at the time, and then my youngest daughter was just starting high school. It was 8th grade and 9th grade. And so those were challenging years for them. And so that was very difficult for me to feel like, am I there for them? But, we would always have dinner. And after dinner, I would make my hot tea, and from 8 p.m. till like 1 in the morning, and then get up at 5:30. And so I remember at one point thinking I have a really high work capacity, but I've definitely gone beyond my capacity. So that was probably the most challenging time in my career.
That was actually my next
life.
question, was just that work-life balance. I always say that there's balance is a BS word, I think, but relationship is maybe the better way to say it. And it sounds like you had mentioned earlier, when they were youngins, you had to kind of rush into those school things, but it was very much a priority. And now it sounds like even then, still always a priority in balancing, or the relationship was working the best it could.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you now?
Now it's how often can I get down to see my granddaughter? So they're in Indianapolis, and if I just drive down for a day or 24 hours, that's fine. And I try not to go a month without seeing, because they grow so fast.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the balance for me now is probably, and maybe it's always been this way, but finding that time for self, really around physical activity. So I used to swim every week. I never swim now except in the summer. So, I used to run. I don't run now. So it's trying to commit to that exercise, because that's also, as you grow older, being physically fit, and
it's going to help you for years to come. Oh,
and my other,
say it again. You're so right.
Sleep. Really working on is sleep, because I don't sleep very well, because my mind is always going, and the more I read about just aging gracefully but in good health, the importance of sleep, it's almost the number one important.
I'm learning that,
and so that's probably my new focus, and learning how can I sleep better? How can I turn things off at night so that I can sleep? Because if I don't sleep, it diminishes what I'm able to do and how healthy I'll be, and so mentally and physical. So I'm trying to work
seeing
on
my
that.
husband on shift work and learning just same thing. I'm trying to learn about physical fitness, how to be your healthiest person, all of those things. I like to do a couple different, I love to lift weights, same thing. I think as I get older, that's going to be really helpful. My body now functions, if you think about me at 35, now I'm 40. At 35, I had a really bad back issue. I had drop foot. I was barely walking. It was very, I could stand for about 2 or 3 minutes at a time. And it was a solid year where I was just barely getting around and barely functioning. And now I don't have any of those issues.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you know that it's all due to your dedication to your own personal health.
It's very important to you. And I love that that's something that you've really, you've invested in and you know and are cognizant of. And learning about sleep and realizing. So,
I'm not as good as I'd like to be, but I'm trying to.
Well, and the awareness is half the battle, right?
That's true. And now commencement is this Saturday, so I feel like during the summer, like this is the time for me, you know, to mornings. If I don't get in till 9, that's okay.
You can get back
nothing
to
waiting
it.
on me. So
that's good. That's fantastic. I'm happy to see that.
Discipline.
Well, it'll be better for us in the long run. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's super smart. And just having the knowledge. That's half the battle is knowing that sleep's that important, or knowing that physical fitness is that important. And some of it, it sounds like similar for you, it's not even about the weight or any of that. It's the mental health that comes along with that physical fitness, and how that makes you feel is probably better than...
Yeah, I just know I feel a lot better. And
me too.
You know, I have a lot of events, so, you know, the self-discipline, being able to eat and watch what you drink and all that, you know, I'm not
have a little more fun
if
you got up this morning.
Yeah, so
I love that.
That's what I do.
So I'm going to head into the quick response questions. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
So anybody that is new, as most already know, these are quick round. So that is 5 seconds to answer the question, or we get buzzed by our obnoxious buzzer. These are the fun ones. I know you haven't read them, so I'll put them in regular order since I know that you don't know them. First up, would you rather have telekinesis, the ability to move things with your mind, or telepathy, the ability to read minds?
Telepathy.
Love it. If the old you could see the new you, what would the old you say?
Enjoy each day.
Oh, great answer. Would you rather be chronically underdressed or overdressed?
Overdressed.
Amen. What woman would you want to have on your side in a battle royale? So fight to the death.
Ooh. Saint Teresa of Avila.
I don't know why I knew you were going to say that, and I don't know my saints well at all. Very good.
Very strong woman.
Okay. I love that.
Avila.
That's a really good answer.
Saint Teresa of Avila.
Okay. You now own a billboard. What does it say?
If you can't be happy, make others happy.
Ooh, another killer answer. You're incredible. Would you rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future or 150 years into the future?
10 minutes.
I don't know that I've ever had anyone say 150. When do you pack for a vacation? I feel like
within
this is very
24
telling.
hours of leaving.
Oh my goodness, you're going to give me an ulcer.
Yeah.
Okay. What superhero would you most want to be?
Wonder Woman.
Okay. Would you rather be forced to sing along or dance to every song you hear?
Sing along 100%.
I'll just take it as you can't dance.
No, I love to dance too, but if I was reborn again, I'd like to be a singer.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And do you have a good voice now?
Church voice and,
Okay.
you know, probably car
pretty good.
and shower voice.
Okay.
But, yeah.
It's not going to get us on American Idol, but it's
I don't
okay.
think so.
I love it. What do you prefer, being extremely cold or extremely hot?
Extremely cold, probably.
Very good. See, you did it. You didn't even get buzzed.
Yeah, because I think I can get warm, but maybe you can't. I can always put layers on.
Yeah.
Extremely hot,
There's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
I really hate the cold. I don't know what it is.
I hate the cold too.
It's awful.
So it's the extremely.
Yeah,
that's
the extreme
a tough
heat.
one.
I know.
That's a tough question.
That's the issue. It's like when you're so cold you can't get warmed up. It's like, I hate it so much. Hot, I also don't love if it's super extreme, but I think I'd rather put up with it. I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know.
Yeah, that is a tough one because, I think of the question was, would you rather be, and which I can tolerate the extreme cold. if I can deal with it and get warm, and where the extreme hot, I think
it's easier to fix the cold.
Where the extreme hot, sometimes it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so
I'm melting
irritable.
and there's nothing. Yeah, and I'm
nothing
aggravated.
You can do.
That's a great point.
So I feel like I can control getting warm better than I can control getting cold.
I like
getting cooled down.
I like that. So you did it.
Okay.
Have you done a podcast? I forgot to ask. No. Okay, so this is your first, and you didn't even get buzzed.
I did do I've done a podcast before, but it's been a little while. Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention about CCSJ, yourself? Anything we didn't touch on?
Calumet College, I'm just proud to be the president at this point in its future. I think it's a great place. I love the student body that we serve. I love the region that we serve.
Yes.
Of my senior leadership team, 3/4, I think, are women.
Okay.
So I love that. I'm also able to have strong women and strong men on my team, and so that's very fun. We just hired 4 new faculty. 50% of them are women.
Amazing.
We have a very diverse board, diverse student population.
Yep.
And so I feel like it's the type of environment that provides excellent education and environment. So
I agree. Also, shout out, we should probably mention, she'll probably listen because I know she's a big fan of yours, but she's also a previous lifer, Kellen, who is... She worked for us and for you guys and went to school with you guys, is now also a published author. So she is, I'm blanking on her last name like a dork. Why can't I remember that? I'm going to look it up right now.
She ran track for us, and she, I do remember seeing her book. Yes.
Yeah, and she's working on another one.
Okay.
I hope that's not, I don't think that's a spoiler. I think she's talked about it online.
It's
not out yet. I don't know anything about it, but I know she's working on another book. She's an absolute amazing, incredible human being that's worked with our team for off and on for years. She's, of course, an alum for you. She's absolutely amazing. So it sounds like you got plenty of amazing folks coming out of it. She was one of the first individuals I met when I became president. Before I actually became president, I went to a track meet and met a number of the track athletes. Really?
And I remember meeting her and hearing her story, and it really meant a lot to me.
She's got an incredible story.
So, and she went to IU her first year and transferred midway between her sophomore year to Calumet College to run track and be closer to her family.
And it was such a perfect fit.
Yes, and her mom had passed away.
Yep.
And so I was really... connected to her.
I should have her on. We should have her on as alum/author. I mean, she's an amazing community female that serves our region still.
Now, she lived out west, southwest for a while. Is she back?
She is.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's out. She's back. She was working for a while with her, I think, not her dad's company, but the company her dad works with. And now I think she took some time off to just focus on her book.
Okay.
She's doing it. She's out there. She's working hard. She's so focused. She's doing fantastic work. She's back in the region. She's here. She seems excited to be here.
So the other thing I would do a shout out, one of my goals for the coming year, and I actually just sent an email yesterday as soon as commencement's over, is to reactivate our alumni association.
Oh, fantastic.
So during the pandemic, we had all these great events planned, and then the pandemic came along, and then we got started with other things, and our alumni association just lost steam, and I'm looking to reactivate it. So any of your listeners that are Calumet College alums, I am looking for an active alumni association if you want to be part of the planning, but also opportunities to be engaged and come back to your alma mater and help see what's going on. Lots happened, so
you guys are doing incredible. Yeah, your campus has changed even since I've known you guys. So I can only imagine the alum. Get connected. You heard her. Well, thank you so much. You are a delight to have.
Thanks.
I knew this much I thought I maybe knew this much, and I know so much more now. You are an incredible human being. I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, wonderful.
All right, guys, thanks so much. Have a great day. Please make good choices, as we like to say here. Tune in. Of course, if you listen regularly, please rate, follow, subscribe, all of those great things. Tell Spotify and Apple Podcasts that you love us. Tune in every month for all of the All About the Girls, and pay attention to our annual event as well. Y'all take care. Have an awesome day.